Alrighty then, welcome to the Nest on 4. This is Scarves and Spikes, typically an Atlanta United podcast. However,
Typically,
we are covering all things FIFA Club World Cup. I think that's happening behind us.
it is happening behind us in a very, very short time. I was wondering, you had like the full-on stand grip going on.
I did. I thought it was going to make more official announcery, but
I like it.
just trying to keep it not greasy. The food here is excellent.
It is.
By all means, a lot of you are partaking. Drinks here are phenomenal as well. So if you can, devour, come on in. We're going to be talking Club World Cup, catch you up to speed, but also the match that's right behind us here and then very short next hour, Inter Miami and FC Porto.
Yeah, it's going to be, the Club World Cup has, I think, we were here a couple of days ago for Chelsea, LAFC, and, there's been some up and down kind of reviews on kind of how the competition has gone so far. Yeah, you're good. No, you're good. We'll show off the drink on the camera. That's all good. You know what? And I'm remiss. Let me go ahead and say quick shout out to the on 4 bar. Quick shout out to the Signia by Hilton, Atlanta. Hey, it's amazing, isn't it? So no, we appreciate these guys hosting us here for all of these shows. As Tony was saying, we're the Scarves and Spikes podcast. We are typically an Atlanta United podcast. We cover MLS. We cover Club World Cup. We cover the World Cup. Now that Atlanta is the home of U.S. soccer, we are covering everything related to the men's, women's national teams, the extended national teams, everything else. So naturally, with the Club World Cup being here in our backyard, in one of the nicest stadiums in the world, we had to get up here and kind of expand our live shows out a little bit. So, Tony, we were here the other day.
Yes.
And, it was a Monday. Crowds are different.
Oh, yeah.
But Miami's coming to town. Lionel Messi's coming to town.
It's a little bit closer.
It is.
It's a little bit closer of a commute for those away fans.
Yes.
I mean, technically, you would think Miami would consider this their home match, given the proximity. I feel like we're just traveling today, though. Other teams that are playing. You're going to Portugal. I'm going to Indiana shortly after this. What's going on with this?
It's always that way. Every time, I was telling the story, we'll get Daniel Solana up here in a little bit, who is the expert on everything Inter Miami. But it was funny because a couple of years ago I was in Munich, and I got there during the international break, wasn't able to see the team play. Literally in a few hours, I'll be in Portugal, and one of the 3 biggest teams in Portugal, besides Benfica and Sporting, are playing. So I won't get to see them over there either. So it's just one of those things, man. It's just,
and while it's a different sport, NBA Finals Game 6 is happening, and I'll be in Indianapolis.
Yep.
In a couple of short hours. So that's why I wore my yellow, by the way.
There you go. Okay.
I am betting on Indy. I actually have them to win the whole thing.
Okay.
Now that was prior to them going down 3-2. So, different sport, but hey, hopefully a different turnout for Indiana tonight. Again, it'll be home for them, but you'll be away for FC Porto.
Yep.
Again, the odds. How insane is that?
How it goes, man. It's just how it goes.
Back over here in Atlanta, again, we're hoping for representation. Granted, we talked about this a couple of days ago. Miami or Seattle and LAFC. So MLS versus the field, the world, if you will. So far, so good, though. Granted, neither one of them got a W. But if you look at the level of competition that all of these clubs had to face, I feel like they rose to the occasion. Botafogo with Seattle getting in that goal. What was it, 2-1 at the end of that one?
Yeah.
Even the other day, LAFC versus Chelsea. I predicted it was going to be double the spread than what had actually happened.
Yeah, me too.
And there was plenty of chances there for LAFC as well, which is something I did not predict at all. And then, Inter Miami, I think you can rest on the fact that, like you said, all of them have pretty much gotten, minus Chelsea for LAFC, the easiest matches out of the way.
Yeah.
So you're hoping that they're warming up, but European competition is something that most of the stars over there, Inter Miami, is something that they're quite accustomed to.
Yeah, and that's guys like Lionel Messi. You got Sergio, you got Jordi Alba, Luis Suarez. You've got through. They've been through this song and dance over and over again. I mean, and that's one of the biggest things for Inter Miami at this point is you've got a lot of youth on that team, but you have the right guys that have the age and the experience to kind of lead them. If you can't learn something and do something with those four guys kind of at the helm, I don't know why you're playing soccer. You know, this is an opportunity for you to come out and be the first MLS team to go win a game in this. So I think, and I was kind of talking with a buddy on the way up here, if Miami wins today, I really, really like their chances of getting out of this group at this point. No goals scored in this group yet, which is wild.
That's insane. That is insane. So I will say, to echo your point, but counter at the same time, you need to win to get out of this group. Let's be honest. It's a tough competition that they have going on, but I think because nobody has scored a goal yet, you are looking at across the field who else is in their group that will win, or a 3-0 victory that immediately puts them up in the leaderboard for their group. So you need a win. You need a statement sooner than later, because we agreed their easiest match was already behind them now.
Yeah, for sure. And this is not to say that Porto is going to be a simple battle. Like this is again one of the big three in Portugal. I think Porto is going to be a little frustrated with the way that the first match went too, and they're going to want to have something to say against Lionel Messi. And interesting too, there's kind of this dichotomy with teams that don't typically play against Lionel Messi that have an opportunity to play Lionel Messi and friends. We've seen it in MLS a lot, but you kind of saw it, you know, again in like Champions League when he was over there in Barcelona and everything else. But you either do one of two things when you're playing against Messi and friends. Either you rise to the occasion and you play the best soccer of your life, or you get starstruck and you just kind of fall apart. And I'm curious to see what happens to Porto here.
That's very interesting the way you phrase that, because in MLS, I've seen a combination of the two where you kind of get shell shock immediately from the four, that a lot of teams have lost their footing, pun intended, when going up against that club. However, I don't see that happening with FC Porto.
No.
I think this is a club that's constantly training across the pitch, sending players across the country, battling in the likes of La Liga, Premier League competition, Championship League comp. That's something that they're kind of in their repertoire. So, as I like to say, I don't think they're new to this. They're true to this.
Yeah, for sure. And Solana up here in just a second to kind of chat Miami. But as far as Porto is concerned, I think, there's something to be said for a team that has been in Portugal's top tier literally the entire existence. That's massive. You don't do that by accident. You're there because you deserve to be there. And it's not that, Porto has any lack of talent coming through. And you can have the same conversation about Sporting and Benfica as well. But like, there's a reason that they call those, I'm not going to say it in Portuguese because I don't speak Portuguese very well, but essentially, the top three, the major three, whatever. I mean, some teams get starstruck, like you said, and some teams rise to the occasion. What's interesting to me, though, about this entire competition is, like you said in the beginning, for Miami, this is more of a home match at this point. They've played here multiple times.
Messi has played here several times.
Messi's played here, yeah, plenty of times. So, and enough, and this is going to be my obligatory, undeserved shot that I have to give, because we have no room to be talking crap right now. I'll just be honest. But Atlanta's done pretty well against Miami in this building. However, Porto's a different beast entirely. So
I mean, their country just won their country's cup.
Yeah.
Or rather, that nation's cup.
Yeah.
So you know what they're feeding as far as their players over there. And I mean,
Yeah.
quite literally, like I'm eating right now. But as far as going into what down, it's exceptional quality talent. And I'm sure we can speak on a little bit more to that. Hopefully, hey, love that Vice kit, by the way.
That kid is fire.
Appreciate it.
Honestly, of all the third kits, I'm so envious of this one.
I know
It screams
that is
Miami
by
Vice.
far my favorite.
Come on down in the middle.
So, Daniel Solana.
Thank you for welcoming me on.
Yeah, so I want you to do your introduction because I could say, battered fans, battered Miami, everything else. But I know you're also working with a radio station now.
That's right, with Fútbol de Primera, Andrés Cantor's radio station. So I'm doing content for them. Also doing content for a channel in Uruguay and also a channel in Ecuador. Covering the Club World Cup for a lot of media spaces and just trying to get the best coverage we can.
Awesome. So you're a busy man.
Yeah,
sure.
Very busy, very busy.
Is this your first time with the Benz?
No.
Okay. First time in media capacity?
Yes. This will be my third time at the Benz. I've been to see Atlanta United twice. Once against DC United when Wayne Rooney was playing for DC United.
Yep. The days back in the day.
Atlanta United won that game, and then I came to another game. I think it was against LA Galaxy or LAFC. I don't remember. But I've been here a couple times. Fantastic stadium. Love the prices.
Yeah, for real.
The BME, for those of you that don't know, are like so. Game. It's gonna be fun. I mean, there's a lot of great atmosphere around this Club World Cup. You've seen the South American teams come out and show out, like Boca Juniors with their fans, River Plate yesterday, even the Japanese team, the Urawa Red Diamonds.
I was all over that match. Loved it.
Fun.
I kind of wanted the Red Diamonds to win that one, to be quite honest. I was really hopeful.
I mean, it would have been fantastic, and it would have been great for the game of soccer if some of these teams that are not as looked at as powerhouses in the world, like a Man City, like a Real Madrid, if they were to get out of the group stage. So I said before the Club World Cup, I thought teams that was going to make some noise and get out of the group stage. They won their first game, so we'll see how they do with the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love the most about these kind of tournaments. I know we've had conversations, but I'm an Open Cup sicko. I love the Open Cup. Some people hate it. It is what it is. To each their own. The Club World Cup, like this is that moment when you get to see like the Mamelodi Sundowns and Ulsan, like in this wild, crazy match that there was hardly anybody at, but it was fun to watch. And these are two teams that most people have never even heard of before. And then, look at Real Madrid yesterday and kind of what they went through. And that was a little bit of but then I think as far as like the atmosphere that some of these fans are bringing, Boca, River, like you expect them to show out, but they're showing out really, really. And then Palmeiras is another one they're taking over, parts of the country. So it's just really fun to see, and I hope people enjoy it while it's here.
I was just going to say, as we chatted the other day, I mean, this brings out the kid in me.
Yeah.
It's like you start a FIFA season. Obviously, they're the hosts of this Club World Cup, but that's the first thing you do. It's you play the International Cup for your club, and that's what this is on steroids. So, again, in my own backyard, I'm giddy. To be quite honest, right? Miami's going to be showing out here. I project way more than it was the other day where there was a lot of Chelsea versus LAFC. But granted, I know timing-wise, schedule, right? This is more of a media event for the world to kind of tune in across the several pitches throughout the States. But if there was a time to buy, I mean, now it's the chance. I mean, if you can get off on a Monday or Thursday, whatever, midday, call in sick, who knows? Tickets, especially here, to see Chelsea LAFC, to see, of course, anytime Messi comes to town, right? It's always going to be busy. But that was the chance to get in. I mean, even looking at the Rose Bowl, I mean, again, granted, people are working, but to see some of these clubs come in, River Plate, right? Like, when are they going to be back in town again? So
especially
take
for a
advantage of
competition.
Right. Take advantage of it while you can.
Absolutely. I mean, and we're getting started. This is the summer of soccer, getting started before the 2026, World Cup. This is the dress rehearsal, right? In the United States, we used to see this as a Confederations Cup. Now FIFA has chosen to make a Club World Cup. But obviously the stadiums are not as full as we'd expect them to be full. because the games are during the week. They're during the day, like you said. Obviously, today is a federal holiday, so we expect to see some more people. Hopefully, some people traveling up from Miami for the game. I know that the supporters are not very happy with the team right now because of the issue that happened at the opening game where they weren't given the allotment of tickets to sit together. Everybody was kind of spread out. So I've heard that a lot of the supporters are not traveling for the game because of that. So that's going to add another wrinkle, another fold into the game today, because as you've seen in a lot of these games, when the 12th man play a huge role, and you saw it on last week's game with Boca and Benfica. The Boca Juniors fans, I mean, were just relentless the entire game and just supporting their team. We saw it yesterday with Al Hilal, Real Madrid as well. I know you said that could be an upset. I don't think it's an upset, because if you look at Al Hilal's, lineup, their roster cost $450 million.
Yeah, and they played well. They played really well. Like, to be fair, Real Madrid is Real Madrid, and they're always going to get theirs. But, we also, coming from a team right now that has spent a lot of money and has failed to live up to expectations. So that's where I'm coming from. But yeah, absolutely. They're spending money, but it's working for them.
Absolutely. I mean, they just spent $40 million on their coach, on Simone Inzaghi, the coach who lost the Champions League final with Inter Milan. They're paying him $20 million a season. That's insane when it comes to, looking at the soccer world and seeing what coaches are getting paid. Not even some national team coaches are getting paid that. I'm from Uruguay. We're paying Marcelo Bielsa $5 million a year, which I think is insane just to start with. But you're thinking $20 million, and he just got blown out 5-0 in the Champions League final. I mean, this is the type of money that these teams in the Middle East are spending, and they're a force to be reckoned with. Their league might not be as competitive as the MLS, but they're definitely top heavy, right?
Yeah.
I think to speak on just that match alone, I mean, talking about Inter Milan, the team he just left, right? 1-1, correct? Versus Monterrey. Yep. I mean, you're talking about, we mentioned the other day, upsets, right? Are we going to see a lot of upsets, or is it going to be a favored tournament pretty much heavy throughout? And I look at that as an upset, even though Monterrey, granted, my favorite center back for life is Sergio Ramos. So to see that header go through, but still, right? You think to yourself, is that a club that's trying to find an identity now that they just lost their coach and also losing that way in the Champions League? Or is this potential upsets? Is this something that is likely to come throughout the rest of this tournament? Because that's what I'm looking for. Obviously, the knockout stage, for sure, it's anybody's game. But even right now, right? Inter Miami, I would think on paper, you would look at them as the underdog, given just the pool of talent that FC, right? Are we going to see a 3-0 victory? That's what I'm hoping for with Inter Miami, or at least, 3-1, make it competitive. But
yeah,
I would love to see that, especially, again, more MLS podcast here. I want to see these faces, I want to see MLS spread, and I want to see it grow. I think LAFC had a good showing. I think even Seattle had a good showing, given what the competition they were going up against with. But this right here, I feel like a lot of eyes are going to be on this match specifically.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it's really interesting and Sonny, I know you can talk a lot about this, but Miami's in one kind of weird boats that not many teams ever get in, where you end up in a competition like this and you're going up against the quote unquote giants, right? You're going up against the big dogs. And Porto admittedly is one of those. I mean, maybe not on the same level of like a lot of the other European teams, but they're there for a reason. And I think when you just look, if you didn't know anything about either team, you're tuning in from the outside, you haven't done your research, maybe you're a casual fan, whatever, and you see, all right, an MLS team, Inter Miami, new, they've only been around for a few years. And then you see Porto, been around for almost 100, if not longer. They've done their thing. They've never been relegated, the whole 9 yards. You think, all right, well, this is a wash. But then you think about who you have on your team. And you've got 4 of the guys that know it better than anybody. How do you kind of explain that to a casual fan or somebody that's just kind of getting into this?
It's
why
tough.
do they have a chance,
I mean, it's tough. If you're a casual fan, like you said, you're looking at these teams, a team with a lot of history. You're looking at the other team who's just new, hasn't really won anything. They won the Supporters' Shield last year, which it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day.
Still silverware, though.
It is. We call it the croqueta plate down in Miami. So, I mean, but at the end of the day, soccer is a game where anything can happen on any given, for lack of a better way of saying it, any given Sunday, any given Saturday today, any given Thursday. We saw in the World Cup, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. Nobody had that in their bingo card for the World Cup. Argentina went on to win the World Cup, but Saudi Arabia the country celebrated that day like if they had won the World Cup because they beat Messi. They beat the World Cup champions. That's something that they can celebrate on. That's something that, as an Inter Miami fan or as Inter Miami fans coming to this game playing against Porto, that's something that you have to think about is, we have a chance. If we defend well, if we can have a little bit of Messi magic, if we can get Suarez to score a goal, if Busquets can play to his level, if Jordi Alba is back to his level, they have a chance. They have the players to compete with some of these teams, and they just need to figure out the right formation, the right strategy. And that's been the really tough part with Javier Mascherano this season is he hasn't really shown that he knows how to manage this team yet. I think he's still learning. He's still a young coach with not a lot of experience, but little by little, he's got the pieces in place to make this team a very good team. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens this afternoon.
I think to kind of piggyback off of that point, and if you could help speak to the layman or just the casual watching this game, how much of what we're seeing here on the pitch goes into the rest of the season for the MLS? Because if I'm looking at it as a head coach, wow, we showed a good front during this formation here against FC Porto. Why couldn't this be copied and pasted for somebody like Orlando or Seattle, or you fill in the blank as far as MLS the rest of the season, right? Like, is there a lot of studying that's happening on this Club World Cup as far as, okay, I now know that I can trust on this player or use this assignment here when moving forward after this?
Yeah, I definitely think that in terms of players, individual players and their performances, there's a lot of weight that I think of that the front office and Javier Mascherano is putting on this tournament, because you're not playing against Orlando City. You're not playing against, Columbus Crew. You're playing against some of the best teams in the world. You're playing against the Egyptian champions for the last 8 years who have won the Egyptian championship 47 times. You're playing against Porto, who has won a UCL before, who has won many local domestic tournaments. So these are teams that are a little bit higher echelon than what we're used to in the MLS. But then again, when you go back and play in the MLS, it's a different style, right? You have teams like, especially when you see Inter Miami playing, you have teams that play a low block against them. And Inter Miami suffers against the low block. They suffer against the low block because they don't have a great defense right now. And so what happens when the other team plays a low block? They counter and they get them, standing wrong, or you have the players not in their right position. And that's how we've seen a lot of teams counter against us and score goals. We saw that against Minnesota. We saw that against LAFC in the CONCACAF Champions Cup when we played away. I mean, right now, Inter Miami has a really, really hard time with a low block. And I think the fact that they're playing well in this tournament is because European teams and teams from overseas don't play that style of play, right? They play a little bit more open. They try to dominate the ball. And I think Inter Miami sets up well against teams who play open because they give them more spaces. They allow space. Allende a little more space on the wing. Busquets more space in them, and then get into their strategy and get to their goals.
I think it's really interesting too, because you say that and kind of piggybacking on what both of y'all said. MLS, and we're going to get to Busquets' comments here in a second, but MLS is a league that has a salary cap. You have, some roster construction rules that I don't even think half people in the league understand at this point. It's just part of it. Yeah, it's 100% that meme. Like there's math going on everywhere. It's wild. So you talk about like a team like Porto coming in to play Miami. Miami is going to want to play. They're back. That's what they're known for, as well as their defense has kind of been a little bit of a struggle over the past couple of years. But you can only invest money overall in one side or the other. It's not that you can be as well-rounded as you want to be. You can't be in MLS as well-rounded as an FC Porto or a Real Madrid or a River Plate or whoever that, these leagues that don't have to kind of deal with the same situation. And then I say all that to say, you have teams like Porto and Miami's playing a handful of other teams. these teams have been around long enough that to the amount of trophies that they've won. That's how long they've been around. I mean, you go to their stadiums and they have tours, like you can go tour their stadium and see all the silverware that they've ever won.
You can tour Chase Stadium.
You can, yes, you can. You can tour Chase Stadium all around the bleachers. But it's just a different culture. I mean, admittedly, like as hard as everybody's trying to get soccer culture in the United States, in North America, well, really it's just the US and Canada, to kind of catch up to the rest of the world, they still have a long way to go. Taking the right steps for sure. And this is a big one. And I think, getting eyes on it is big, but it's been, there's a gap there. You look at some of the past matches. I mean, for Miami's first match in this tournament, and I get that the opponent was a little different, but I mean, you hold it to a scoreless draw, right? Like, it's not that you're getting blown out, right? The only real blowout we've seen so far is Munich and Auckland City. That was wild. There was the other 4-0 match with Atletico Madrid, but I don't feel like that was a blowout per se. So you see kind of like you said, any given Sunday, things can happen, and you have guys on your team on Inter Miami that can come out, and they've definitely been here before.
Unfortunately, like you said, Inter Miami is a young club. Tying it into what you were talking about with the salary cap. Yeah, unfortunately, the 3 MLS teams that are involved in the Club World Cup, LAFC, Inter Miami, and now I'm blanking on the third one.
Seattle Sounders.
That's right,
Seattle
Sounders. So
there's a lot of teams in this tournament.
There is. So unfortunately, those 3 teams are at a disadvantage. Why? Because of the salary cap. We've talked about this on all of our shows ad nauseum, right? We've talked about this, how MLS needs to let go of the salary cap, allow teams to spend. I think we're seeing the change starting to come, because you're starting to see San Jose up for sale. Vancouver could possibly be up for sale too. Those are teams that historically are not known to spend a lot of money, although San Jose did spend some money this summer, bringing over Bruce Arena, correct. So they did spend some money, but in order for these teams to compete with the Bayern Munichs, with the Man Cities, with the Real Madrids, they need to let go of the salary cap. They need to let these owners sign players that, can help the team regardless of the roster rules. Or I really love Gam, Tam, Jam,
Me neither. Ram, yeah.
Yeah. So in order for them to compete, they have to let go of those rules, because right now, like you said, with the rules in place, you can only focus on maybe one part of your team. And so like Inter Miami, taking that to effect, they focus on their offense. They have Messi, they have Suarez, they have Busquets. So they're looking at that midfield, the forwards. They really don't have anything in defense. What did they bring? They brought Maxi Falcon for $2 million. They have David Martinez on a loan, which is done at the end of the month. He's supposed to go back to River. So they've tried to do the loan deals to get around the salary cap, to bring these players that are not necessarily going to help the team 100%, but maybe they'll just help 50 or 60%. And that's not really what you want. You want them to be helping 100%, to be the best possible player that you can sign. And really the roster rules just don't allow for that.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's something, like you said, we've talked ad nauseum about, is the fact that I think MLS specifically too, because of the salary cap restrictions, almost is over-reliant on their U22 and under talent, where you're hoping for a Kevin Sullivan to come. So you're like, oh, see, we're not bending the rules here, but this guy is a wonder kid, So I don't think anybody who really follows the MLS is a fan of these restrictions. To echo something I think not only Hercules Gomez, but so many other people have said, is just this tournament, it's going to be a big awakening to see, like, if you want fandom to come from this, you got to open this up. You have to release these restrictions so that more people can attend, because I don't think it's an insane thing to imagine, but if all the MLS clubs packed 50,000, 70,000 the way that Atlanta United does, the rules will be bent. The rules will be opened and say, yeah, obviously we can afford to let go of these salary cap restrictions and bring more people in here. But it's one of those things that, like, you can't not build it for them to come. Like, you have to set it up that way. This way we can get more Messi eyeballs, more, I'm trying to think of like other names that, Cristiano Ronaldo was like, teasing with it.
You got
Griezmann was teasing with it. But like, I feel like if you open that up, it's no longer a tease. It's like, oh, that's a real possibility.
Yeah, but they even like with some of them, they had to, there's things, and this is, I know we joke around all the time about how Miami had peace spots, but admittedly they had to. There was some things that had to happen with him with Messi getting a cut of like Apple TV deal, like the whole thing, and it's like, hey man, MLS is better with Messi in it. Being honest, I'll take my Atlanta shirt off for a minute. Not really, because you don't want to see that, but like you need this talent to be able to come in, and it doesn't need to be pulling teeth. It doesn't need to be trying to fight with stupid rules. Some rules, it keeps the league with parity. It keeps it a little fair, but at the same time, then you get into situations like this Club World Cup, and it's like, are we behind the 8 ball at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you said one of the words that I just can't stand: parity.
Me too, dude. Yeah, man, preach.
Unfortunately, that's just something that's very key with American sports, right? American sports are built on parity. They want to have a different champion every year, but unfortunately, parity is boring. Have everybody, and I'm a Miami Heat fan, so I'll take when they signed LeBron and the Big Three, they were the most hated team in the NBA, and I think that was good for the league because that causes new storylines. I mean, it's just good. So you want to have a powerhouse team, a Yankees, a Heat, a Lakers, something like that, where you can hate them. It just causes better storylines. It's better for the media. It's better for the league because then you have teams that are trying to get to where that team is. So and look, I don't even think signing Messi, signing Cristiano Ronaldo's the way to go. I think we need to get younger. I think we need to sign guys up, maybe like a Ricky Puig, somebody that same. Yeah, well, I mean, why not? But we have to go and sign those younger guys because that's the way the league is going to get better. We need to compete with the Brazilian market. We need to compete with the Mexican market. We need to compete with those markets and get those types of players because that's how we're going to get better.
I will warrant your boogeyman theory, and absolutely right. You need a face to your villain, right? You need to personify them. The only thing I might push back a little bit, because while I agree of this sport, thinking for the American audience, I think a lot of them, not to dumb them down, but I think a lot of them need a name recognition for them to tune in. So if we can, if there's a middle ground there, I think that's kind of the best way to move it forward. But a lot of people are finally starting to wake up to Yamal over there in Barcelona now, after the crazy performance that he's done for his country, but also for his club. But right, if you're watching, I mean, we already know, but it's like that's the young talent right there that, again, I think for the American audience needs to be a little bit more back that idea of having a boogeyman. And I'm also curious too to see, switching over to another LeBron club, if you will. Lakers are now up for sale, and they're going to be sold for $10 billion, right? I'm wondering who's in that.
Did you say $10 million?
$10 billion.
I'm not into the NBA like I used to be.
$10 billion.
They're
the Bus
selling
family,
this club for $10 million?
$10 billion.
$10 billion.
And
okay.
10
billion.
With yes, with a B.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I heard 10 million. And
No,
I was
that's why I
like, what are we
emphasized
doing
it.
right now?
That's why I put a B, but yeah, for sure.
Okay. B is
billion with
better.
a B. And I think it was 67 billion that Dr. Jerry Buss bought the team for.
Wow.
So I say that to say, hey, if I'm Don Garber, if I'm the MLS brass, I am looking. You're saying San Jose's up for sale, possibly Vancouver. We've seen the stat lines. MLS is the fastest growing sport here in America as far as projections and not only tripling your growth, but quadrupling. Arthur Blank built this. Granted, he owns another team in the Atlanta Falcons, another version of football that really made sense for him. But who else is putting 50 to 70,000 people consistently in the stands, even when we've spent too much money and we're losing a lot?
Yeah.
Right? I look at that as a growth opportunity. Hey, Mr. Garber, MLS brass, what are we doing? Because I'm looking at LA and I'm seeing that they're selling their team for $10 billion. It's easy to pitch. Hey, you want to triple, quadruple your money in the next 5 years? Invest in MLS, because after this or after World Cup, maybe we go a little bit loose on the salary cap. Maybe we really multiply that investment to where you can grab this club right here. Why pay 10 when you can pay half that for this team right here?
San Jose's up for sale for $600 million right
Exactly. Pay half, not even half that.
now. Yeah.
I said half that because I was thinking about 1 billion. So half of $1 billion, right? And grow this exponentially to then eventually get to $1 billion or multi-billion-dollar club, right? I think it's right there for the taking, especially in a market like San Jose. Are you kidding me? The weather, it's perfect. Right now, you got 3 forwards pretty much that are just legendary status when it comes to MLS. Like, how could you not want to invest in this team and this culture and all of that to where make it make sense, MLS? Come on. Do I need to be on the board? Don Garber, do you need to hire me as a salesman? I'm a spokesperson by trade, but like, give me a little cheddar and I got it.
We could solve this whole situation right now. I'm just saying.
We could, the 3 of us right here on the Scarves and Spikes podcast. We can just solve it.
Get all your stuff here. Look, solve the whole MLS problem.
So do we get in Busquets? Do we get into the T? The comments?
Well, I mean, I think we've kind of danced around it, but you just kind of give us the Cliff's Notes of, Busquets was essentially saying that this league will never go forward until they open up the salary cap, right?
Right. I mean, he's essentially just echoing what all of us who cover the league have been saying for the last 5-6 years. Unfortunately, if you don't open up the wallets, if you don't invest back into your own product, it's just not going to go anywhere. And I think he's 100% right. I mean, we're seeing it in other market teams where they're just not investing as other teams are, and it's not going as well for them in the stands, in the field. It's just not going for them. And really, the only way to get out of this is money. I mean, it's a bad way to put it, but that's really the only way to get out of this.
That's valid. And that is a player who has seen this at every level. He has seen it at every single level of competition at the highest of heights and came over here because he wanted to play with his boys. But yeah, it's like you would think you would take the experience and really invest behind that. And then again, echoing just what we said for the last 15 minutes here. Again, you're talking about the guy who's buying the team is in LA, right? Mark Walter, I think his name is, but he spent $10 billion. And mind you, he already owns or is a minority or majority owner of the Dodgers. So this is a guy who knows how to spend money. How can you not immediately just tag behind and be like, hey, far from LA, and you want to spend money? Clearly, again, spend, what is it, a tenth of that over here, and you're going to go so much farther. We'll bend the rules for you. We'll do the whole thing. Again, I have to now that we have our Messi resident here, because it's not even Miami resident, it's a Messi resident, right? If we can bend the rules for that guy, what can't we do?
Right.
Easy. I'm not a Messi fan here. I'm a Suarez fan.
Okay.
All right, there you go. All right. I'm not going to make any biting jokes. I'll keep those out of the podcast.
We'll keep them shelved. But, it's just that, right? Again, just echoing that. If we hear somebody who's got the most experience behind this saying these words, also you look across, because MLS has to do this, you look across what's happening in other leagues because they're trying to either replicate or do better, right? Duplicate what has already been done. You guys have a hot run going for you, right? I feel like you have to strike while the iron's hot on this and open it up, especially after this tournament, but also bringing in those investors, those ownership clubs that want to spend money and allow them to do so. I'm sorry, but we're doing it here in Atlanta, and that's with the restrictions. Imagine if you opened them up. Who else we could have really brought in? And you've seen that with Miami.
You wouldn't have to get rid of Thiago Almada, I'll tell you that.
100%. Man, and who knows what this team would look like. And, and there's a few, like, right, Atlanta, Miami, to a degree, New York City, because of the group that's backing them. LAFC, we know, Galaxy. There's a handful that are kind of like trying. And it's just, it's almost like, man, the amount of hoops that we have to jump through to make this happen. And thankfully, look, I joke around. We joke around about it all the time. Miami has figured it out in a way that benefits them. Now you're getting ready to go take on, to kind of wrap it all back around, take on Porto in the Club World Cup. Take us home with essentially what to look for in this match with Miami.
Well, I think we're going to have to look for a little Messi magic, unfortunately. I mean, that's kind of been what Inter Miami's MO has been all season, right? They they kind of struggle in the back line. They struggle with teams who can counterattack them. If Porto has a very fast forward in Samu, we got to watch out for him. They're just not very good defensively. So unfortunately, Inter Miami's going to have to defend, play a low block, play a counter, and look for maybe to get by the defense, look for a Suarez to get a through ball to Messi, or even some Messi magic, whether it be a free kick, whether it be a penalty, really anything at this point. But I think that's really the only way Inter Miami has a chance today, unfortunately. I mean, it stinks to say that, especially being a fan and covering the team and traveling all the way out here to say, hey, I came here to see, maybe watch them lose. But the truth is, I mean, they're facing one of the powerhouses of Europe. These guys are absolutely stacked. They have Otavio, like I said, Samu, a couple of other great players. So I don't know what I'm getting into yet today, but we're going to find out in about an hour and a half, to see what Inter Miami does. But, just to wrap it all up, I think it's going to take a little bit of Messi magic, and it's going to take an effort similar or better than the one that they had against Al Ahly on Saturday.
And Jordi Alba is back in some way, some capacity. So he's coming off of, some extended time, relatively speaking. So, I mean, it's always, at least you have him in your back pocket, even if it's, 70th minute or something. Not that maybe a left back is always the biggest game changer, but with how Jordi Alba plays, the OG in terms of like being an attacking wingback and experience, I mean, he could come in and drop a dime for somebody, and it changes the entire game at that point.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And I mean, I think he might even be starting, to be honest with you. So he was at practice yesterday, trained fully with the team. Also, Messi trained. There were some rumors that he had his issue with his adductor again. I didn't see anything. So I think, everybody's ready to go. Obviously, we still have some injuries. Lujan is still injured. David Ruiz is still injured. David Martinez is still injured. So we're still a little bit shorthanded in the back line. We'll see if Noah Allen will get to start with Maximiliano Falcon. We'll see if maybe Frey, who had a fantastic second half playing center back, which we haven't seen him that much this season there. I think he should get the start with McIntyre. I would put Chelo Wigan at the right, Noah Allen, who's had a fantastic season so far. And that's what I would go with in the starting back four. Unfortunately, like I said, we're a little shorthanded with the injuries and with the signings that didn't come in like Mascherano had asked for a few weeks ago. By the way, nobody made a signing in the MLS during that transfer window, did they?
The
LAFC
did. Yeah. One guy. Yeah.
Didn't Atlanta United pick up somebody in that transfer window?
No. You're talking about the special Club World Cup window. Yeah. No, it was just LAFC. And it was a loan with the option to buy, which I think is interesting. Because it's a window, But anyway, that's a totally. I was thinking, like, especially Miami, like, this is your opportunity. You know your weaknesses. This is your chance to go snag somebody, to kind of fill it in. I'm surprised that they didn't do that.
Well, I mean, Mascherano asked for a forward, a midfielder. I would have liked a defender, but there was some rumblings. They were looking at Brian Rodriguez from Club America from Mexico, but nothing ever really ended up happening. So we'll have to see what happens in the next transfer window now in the summer. But yeah, I mean, Inter Miami, for the rest of the season, I think they definitely need to make a couple of signings. I don't think they're ready to compete for the MLS Cup yet. I still think they have some issues in their back line. They still have some issues with coaching, and they're going to have to reinforce themselves in the summer window, just like Atlanta is going to have to do, and they're going to have to figure some stuff out.
100%.
Quick two predictions. One, for this match, also, we get out of the group, and if so, how far?
So I actually predicted Inter Miami to get out of the group before the Club World Cup started. I said that it was going to be Porto and Inter Miami moving out of the group. I think Inter Miami matches up really well with Palmeiras. Inter Miami played Universidad in Peru in the preseason in a sold-out 70,000 seat stadium. I think because of the makeup of the roster, who the players are on the team, they just play, or they're matched up better with South American teams. And so I think they're going to play Palmeiras toe-to-toe. I think this game is going to be tough. I think Porto's going to win this game, maybe 1-0, 2-0. And I think it's all going to come down to the next game.
Okay. My prediction for FC Porto v Miami, you know what? Honestly, I think LAFC gave me a lot of hope as far as what we could do. I still think
they played a solid game, to be fair.
I still think FC Porto pulls this one out, but I'm thinking some Messi magic, but I'm still edging FC Porto 2-1. I am hopeful, though, obviously, for every MLS club that's representing in this tournament right now, that I don't know who I was watching. I don't know if it was Real Madrid or Chelsea, but they just played a high back line, almost to this point where it was disrespectful. I'm kind of hoping that happens here, and then there can be a lot of counterattacks that Miami take advantage of.
And unfortunately, they're not going to take advantage of that. Suarez doesn't have the knees to keep up with that. Messi doesn't have the speed to keep up with that. Hopefully, Tadeo Allende, who does have the speed, can get through the back line, but if they do play that, it's an issue for them to defend it because Miami doesn't have the speed to
I was trying to give you a rope that you can hang on, and he just said, nope, it's not going to happen here.
It's just not the team, you know.
I'm a realist.
Look, that you're a better man than me. I'm way too optimistic sometimes. I'm not going to get into that conversation right now.
What are you thinking though? Scoreline?
No, so for this one, I'm only optimistic about Atlanta United. I do like this game though. Actually, for Miami, I would say I was going to say a 2-2 draw.
Hey, I'll sign it. If you're telling me right now, I'll sign it.
Right. Let's. And I would love that for Miami too, because then you essentially leave all your chips on the table for Palmeiras, and you go and you lay it all out there and be done with it. And you do that, you get out of the group. And we were talking about it last week. It's any man's game at that point.
Absolutely. But before we get off, though, I got to ask you guys who your favorite team to win the Club World Cup is. I'll give you mine after, but I'm curious what your opinion is.
So
like
I'm so
realistic
confident.
prediction? Okay.
I'm so confident behind mine just because their momentum. You look at Atletico Madrid and what they did to them. I'm so confident behind my pick. And again, it's just because they just got the ultimate crown. I don't see them slowing down.
I'm trying to remember who I picked the other day. I know there's a handful of ones that I've kind of had in my head, and maybe I'm a little swayed by what's happened since then, but I like River. You know, I think kind of what they've shown. Also, it does help that I'm very familiar with a lot of their players because Atlanta and River have had a very big connection, and there's still a lot of River to Atlanta and back to River players that are still playing for River at this point. And I mean, look, Boca had a much harder match. Absolute entertainment, but I think River is somewhat the better rounded team. I think they're the ones that can really go up against a lot of the European sides and Brazilian sides.
Yeah, I agree with your pick. I agree with River. I think between River and Boca, I think they had a better season in Argentina. We did see Boca play fantastic, but they did have a tougher game, and they have a much tougher game with Bayern Munich coming up. You know, River has to play Inter Milan and Monterrey. So it's a little bit of an easier draw. My pick was Real Madrid. I'm not too happy. I'm not a Real Madrid fan. I'm not even a Barca fan. I don't really
bet against them though.
It is. And I thought with the fact that they were, you know, from injury, that they were going to keep Modric through the tournament, that they were signing Trent and Alexander-Arnold, which was one of their biggest issues in the season, was their right back. They didn't have a right back. They had Valverde playing right back for some of the season. I thought they were going to make some noise, but man, after yesterday's game, I don't know anymore.
Hopefully Mbappe can recover. I still don't even know what is it, gastritis, something he's got going on right now. Hopefully he can recover sooner rather than later. Be available for one of the knockout stages. Who knows?
As long as he doesn't have whatever Christian Pulisic has, I think he's good to go.
Oh, buddy. Yes, I agree. A little too soft. All right, sweet. So you have a match to watch here in Atlanta from Miami. You have something unrelated to soccer in the Midwest, and I have to go see a stadium in Portugal for a team that's actually going to be playing here. So I appreciate you coming out, man. This has been awesome. And let everybody know where to find you.
You guys can find me on all my social media at Dice Eldani, DiceEldani, and on Full Leopard Herons. What else? Vivo Sport Uruguay. I'm all over the place.
Sweet. And again, for everybody here in the bar and everybody watching, maybe you're a Battered Herons fan or otherwise at home watching on the live stream, y'all go follow Scarves and Spikes on YouTube and all the social medias. We truly, truly appreciate it. And with that, got soccer to go watch.
Let's go.